If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by our in-house intel expert, S2. Good to see you, S2, or maybe not. Good to see you. Good to see you, friend.
Frankly, I don't care about the Psyop.
Right on. All right, so we're going to get started right away. We've got breaking news out of Missouri. Our good friend, Attorney General Andrew Bailey, won the lawsuit against China for damages inflicted on the citizens of Missouri by the CCP, the Wuhan lab, and that Charlie 19 virus that we have to be careful mentioning, although we are going to flirt with that tonight in a couple different ways. So here's the deal. Missouri's been awarded $24 billion with a caveat. If China doesn't pay up the $24 billion, and they've said they're not going to pay it, then the Attorney General has been empowered by the court to seize Chinese real estate / land assets in the state of Missouri. And they've purchased a ton of farmland in Missouri. So regardless of which way this goes down, whether it's $24 billion or Andrew goes ahead and seizes farmland purchased by the Chinese, this sets an amazing precedent and blueprint for other states to follow. And essentially to recover costs, number one, related to Charlie 19, and number two, to potentially get back some of our land that probably shouldn't have been sold to the CCP in the first place. I see our friend Mike Sterling has jumped backstage. We'll bring him in as well. How you doing, Mike?
Good. Sorry, I'm late.
All right. So I don't know if you caught it or not, Mike, but we got breaking news out of Missouri. It's really good news. I've got an exchange going with his chief of staff, by the way, to get him back on Survival Dispatch News. Pretty awesome precedent. All right. So with that out of the way, the next thing that we're going to jump into, I put it in tonight's brief, essentially as a PSA, public service announcement, and it's related to the concept of astroturfing. So a couple days ago, I started to notice some very fishy comments on our videos, other videos on other channels, and all of these people were almost using the same language verbatim, saying that they were former supporters of Donald Trump. They were former MAGA, but they were jumping off the MAGA bandwagon because of federal employee layoffs, the Ukraine situation, egg prices, which, by the way, I saw 2 reports today that said the Biden admin did not kill 100 million chickens during the month of December under suspicion of bird flu, which none of them were proved to have. The number's 200 million. So the whole thing was a setup so that they could turn around and try and blame Trump for it. So anyway, back to these people who are claiming that they jumped off the MAGA bandwagon and that they're now anti-MAGA, anti-Trump, pro-Democrat, pro-Rhino, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been at this a long time, and this is squarely in my wheelhouse. I was on the internet prior to the advent of the World Wide Web in 1994, and I'm super familiar with what are called AstroTurf campaigns. It was essentially a thing that was invented by Bill Gates and Microsoft before the World Wide Web, and then even after the World Wide Web is introduced up to now, they've engaged in astroturfing. So essentially astroturfing is somebody like Bill Gates, as shown on the article on screen right now, trying to make it look like there's a grassroots movement supporting some narrative when the whole thing is complete BS. So I've mentioned it before, and we're going to get into Psyops and how you can identify Psyops and all that good stuff in chapter 1. But astroturfing, very similar to a Psyop, and also very easy to recognize, especially when you look at the comments from one video to another, to another, to another, and all of these mockingbirds are reiterating the same thing over and over again. So at the end of the day, nobody's leaving MAGA in large numbers. Nobody's definitely leaving MAGA to join the Democrats. That's just completely asinine. And this whole concept of people saying that they don't no longer support Donald Trump is a globalist astroturfing campaign for sure. Our friend Bill Gates is partially behind this, but this will also be George Soros. It'll also be Klaus Schwab, the WEF. And the reason we wanted to make this PSA was don't fall for it. And when you see it, speak out against it, because it's super easy to spot, especially after it's been mentioned. So when you see it happening on social media, reply back. Let them know that they're essentially paid actors. And paid actors is a great way to identify both psyops and astroturfing. So I've got a handful of articles pulled up here, and then I'm going to go to S2 first after I get through these few tabs. But when Donald Trump first came into office, actually before he came into office, when he won the primary, there was all sorts of astroturfing happening, and it's still happening till today, by the way, of where the other side, so Team Obama, Hillary, etc., were advertising in Craigslist and other areas. We'll pay you X amount of dollars per day, $200, $300, $500 for the day. Some of them even more. There's a report here on this one where this guy says he was paid $3,500 to protest Trump's rally. And I'm surprised that they would put it on legacy media like ABC, but they did. And the list goes on and on. George Soros was notorious for funding this sort of stuff. Also, the funding source behind the bricks that mysteriously showed up at all the peaceful protests. But at the end of the day, this is no longer a secret, and it's never been a secret to those people in the know. And we're probably going to see a radical increase in astroturfing because the Democrats, the rhinos, they have nothing left. And before anybody who's new to the podcast accuses us of being Republicans, none of us are Republicans at Survival Dispatch. We are libertarians, lowercase L, Christian conservatives, patriots, whatever you want to call it, which is actually kind of funny. When I went out to do my training today and I threw this t-shirt on, it reminded me way back when, like a year or two ago, I wore this shirt and somebody wrote in the comments, well, you just know you can trust this guy because his shirt tells you he's a patriot. And I thought to myself, what kind of moron is not patriotic to their own country? Like, is that all you got? Sort of thing.
Democrats.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple more examples here, and I'm not getting into the nitty gritty on each of these campaigns because a lot of this has happened as far back as 7-8 years ago, as far as being targeted at Trump is concerned. But suffice it to say that astroturfing, it could be considered one form of a psyop. It's very prevalent. Bill Gates for sure is behind it. The first article that we had pulled up, by the way, just specifics on that one in particular, there was a group of doctors with fake names, by the way, who claimed they had 17,000 signatures of doctors against RFK Jr. being confirmed by the Senate. And at the end of the day, it was textbook Bill Gates astroturfing, where he paid for this and tried to obfuscate it. And there was no reality to it whatsoever. Now it goes the other way as well, by the way. So the Democrats and the rhinos over the years have also tried to say that Donald Trump has been engaged in astroturfing and that he offered to pay the legal fees for protesters, et cetera, et cetera. All of that is not true. It is complete bullshit. And what's funny about it is one of the top strategies used by the Democrats, the globalists, the rhinos, etc., are to accuse their adversary of precisely what they are doing themselves. So S2, this stuff is really deep in your wheelhouse. You're in this stuff every single day. Give me your high level thoughts on astroturfing as it relates to this particular point in time and people leaving Trump. And I agree with you on Bondi, by the way, and you can go in depth on that. But I personally don't believe anybody's abandoning Trump at this point, and they certainly aren't abandoning Trump to go to the Democrat side.
No, they're not abandoning Trump. At least that's not the vibe I'm getting out there across all of the social media that I've been running around in. Of course, you have the liberals out there that are melting down all over the place, that are calling for the assassination of Trump and everything. Um, there's no grassroots effort out there. But what I will say, and I'm going to reference this document that I told you I ran across today.
Mhm.
So the title of it is "In the Matter of the Joint Investigations and Litigation Regarding Certain Practices Relating to Doge." There is a document that I'm looking at right now that it's an agreement between 14 different states, basically, that they are conspiring to come up with legal litigation to impede the investigation of Doge. And it basically it comprises of law firms, it comprises of state chief deputy attorney generals. I can go down this list here real quick.
Go ahead.
We have James Grayson, who's the chief deputy attorney general for the New Mexico Department of Justice. We have Linda Singer, who is an attorney for the Motley Rice LLC legal firm. We have Harry Sandick, who is a partner at the Patterson Belknap Webb Tyler LLP law firm out of New York. We have Melanie Sloan, who is a senior advisor with an organization called American Oversight. That's a freaking contradiction in terms.
Mm.
And I have another document as well, basically stating it's kind of another agreement now, saying that they were going to come up with strategies and legal litigation to combat the birthright citizenship piece of it. And I'm sure there are other agreements out there too. Um, but let me pull up this other document here real quick because I think I have a list of all of the states too. Those are just the ones on this particular agreement, but essentially what they've done here is they have created a document that basically states that they are conspiring to impede or obstruct a federal investigation. And these idiots put their names and their signatures on this document. How stupid are you? That's what I want to know.
Well, they think they can get away with it at the end of the day. And that's
Yeah.
where the stupidity definitely comes from. Mike, do you want to weigh in on the concept of astroturfing before we jump into Psyops? Because we got a lot of ground to cover.
Oh yeah. Well, the problem is that they've been getting away with it all this time. That's why they're sticking with business as usual. Oh, we'll continue doing it the same way because we've always gotten away with it. And they haven't quite figured out yet that the rules are changing. But yeah, S2 hit all the you and S2 hit all the highlights astroturfing. Let's move on.
All right. So
I do have a few more names I want to add to this list too. By the way, these documents were created 1 to 2 months before Trump was inaugurated. So apparently they knew about Doge way ahead of time. We've got Daniel C. Batt, Chief Deputy of Arizona. Or pardon me, Daniel Burt is his name. He wrote it in his handwriting, so that was real fucking smart. And then we've got Rob Bonta, who's the Attorney General of California. And we have Natalie Hanlon-Lay, who is the Chief Deputy Attorney General of Colorado. We also have William Tong, who is the Deputy Solicitor General of Connecticut. We have Brian L. Schwab, who is the Attorney General of DC. We have Kathleen Jennings, who is the Attorney General of the state of Delaware, who is, let's see, by Vanessa L. Kasab. And we have Ann E. Lopez, who is the Attorney General of the state of Hawaii. We have Kwame Raoul, who is the Attorney General of Illinois, surprise, surprise. And we have Andrea Joy Campbell, who is the Attorney General of Massachusetts. And we have Anthony G. Brown, Attorney General of Maryland.
let's cover this in the chat in a bit because most of these names our audience aren't going to recognize. The key to it is that you have a lot of public officials, essentially.
Yeah.
And they've copped to it, which I'm with you and Mike. They did that because they don't think that they're going to be held accountable whatsoever. But I want to get into chapter 1 here because we've got a lot of ground to cover tonight. And the main topic of the night are what I felt were the top 7 psyops since 2010. And Lord knows there's a bunch of them, but there are 7 that really, really stand out. So number 1, and these are not in any particular order, these are just grouped together, 7 of them since 2010. The Russia hacked the election for Trump frenzy, which persisted through 2016 to 2019, petered out a little bit at that time, but it did carry on. So there's all kinds of evidence now that this whole thing was paid for by Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton's campaign. You've got the Steele dossier. It's a very, very deep rabbit hole. But here we are all these years later, and even most of the normie norms are coming to realize that this was a hoax. It's very classic psyop. Now, there's some diehards, probably 20 to 30% of Americans, that are going to believe this no matter what, because they trust everything that the mainstream media tells them. But at the end of the day, all of these things that we cover, all of these hoaxes, all of these psyops, one thing that they share is legacy media and people in the public eye repeating stuff verbatim, word for word. And we keep mentioning that when you see that, that's your first clue that you should probably go follow the money, because it's probably not truthful. So, Mike, I'm going to go to you first for your thoughts on the Russia hoax that started in 2016.
Well, you know, I mean, anybody that was watching that knew that was.
You turn your mic down just a hair, please.
Sorry about that. Yeah, anybody that was watching that knew that whole thing was absolutely not. How's that? That better?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. And it was just, I don't know, the whole thing from start to finish just kept on feeling like the way that they rolled it out just screamed Clinton all over it. And I mean, they didn't even do a good job of rolling it out. You know, they kept on saying, "Oh, we've got all this," and the Russians kept saying, "We didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about." So I don't know. It just it felt terrible from the beginning. They didn't do a good job on the whole thing. I don't know. Just even in retrospect, it all looks rushed.
So I think one of the key distinctions are, and we all don't know what we don't know. And there's certain people who don't take as much of an interest as we do in politics and, you know, breaking news, those sort of things. And there's also a significant portion, the generation before us. So we're Gen Xers. So the baby boomers before us, even to this day, many of them still believe in the government. They believe in public figures. They believe in the legacy media. And as a result of that, they will believe this sort of stuff, these psyops essentially. And we can give people some tools. There's even some online courses I'm going to reference tonight. But I honestly think that this is one of those things that you either inherently have the ability to detect this stuff or you don't. And if you don't, can you improve? Yes. But it's kind of like a genetic thing, right? If you and I, Mike, we went to compete against Usain Bolt, who ran a 9.5, 900 meters, we could do everything identical to him, and we're never going to come anywhere near him because we don't have his genetics.
I can beat him.
With what?
Lead? I start by shooting him in the ankle.
Yeah.
And then
lead pipe.
Yeah, right. That works too. You know, you just break out the old Tanya Harding.
Too funny.
Get out of my head.
All right, S2, I want to get your take on the Russia and Steele dossier and Clinton.
I'm one of those guys that when I hear bullshit, I know it's bullshit. I mean, when I started hearing the legacy media parroting it back and forth verbatim, and the real trigger for me is when I heard Sean Hannity whining about it over and over and over and over again, and it was always the same message. It's like, come on, dude, do you have something else to talk about? Nobody cares.
Yeah. And it surprises me because Sean Hannity's been friends with Trump for 25, 30 years, and yet he did what his masters told him to do. But let's move on to the next one because it's even worse as far as people buying into it. And that's the fine people hoax, the very fine people hoax. Trump never said anything about Nazis or neo-Nazis or despicable people being very fine people. His speech was selectively edited. which I personally think there should be legal ramifications and civil ramifications for doing stuff like that. But here you go. Left wing, as hard left wing as it gets, Snopes even say, no, Trump did not call neo-Nazis, white supremacists, very fine people. Now, of course, they still got to get a dig in by saying, however, the accuracy of what Trump did claim, that there were very fine people on both sides of the 2017 Unite the Right debacle, is in question. I mean, they can't leave it without taking a little bit of a jab. But I specifically chose Snopes because they're such hardcore Democrat left-wing globalist. Obama, just before the election, this past election, November 5th, 2024, even repeated the hoax, knowing full well that it's a hoax. And the lemmings just lapped it up. I mean, this one was so obvious. It was so easy to disprove. Mike, give me your thoughts on the very fine people hoax.
Yeah, I mean, they chopped it up and they keep playing it. That's the crazy part. You go over to the other channels and they keep playing it. And my cousin and we were having a very heated discussion about this whole thing. I sent her the unedited one. She'd never seen it, never even heard of it.
Wow.
And was like, where's this been? I said, what do you think I've been talking about for the last 2 years?
Well, the crazy thing is, Mike, I don't know if you can see the date on this. I know it's a bit of an eye test, but
August 2024.
Yeah. And they were still repeating it, even though this has been, discounted numerous times. Again,
well, and that's why it's up to us, not just the three of us here, everybody out there in the audience. Get this stuff, put it out there so that people can see it. Send it to your relatives instead of arguing with them. Put your money where your mouth is and go, okay, poof, here you go, proof. Now what?
Yeah. So on a related topic, by the way, before we get S2's take on this, the anti-disinformation crusade that started in 2020, 2021 is a big reason many people like your cousin didn't see that stuff, because every time somebody posted on a major platform, they deleted it or suppressed it, and people never did get to see it. And don't kid yourself, that stuff is still happening.
Sure.
S2, the very fine people hoax.
I'm going to pass on this because I don't really have anything to add to it. I mean, the only thing I can say is once again, it's one of those things where if you just pay attention to what the mainstream media is saying, they will tell you everything you need to know within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So number 3 of 7, the climate change consensus push. And that started in the 2010s and continues to this day. So the number they like to throw out there is the 97% of scientists agree. And that therefore then in their mind justifies aggressive policies like shutting down anything that burns oil or gas, pushing electric vehicles, which in the end of the day are going to create a huge environmental problem with batteries about 25, 30 years down the road when those batteries are all in a landfill somewhere. And pardon me. So basically what's happened with this particular PSYOP, it's like the other ones, repeat over and over again, dismiss anybody who has a dissenting opinion as being a conspiracy theorist and saying the science is settled. We're not even going to argue this. The science is settled. And it's such an obvious PSYOP. I mean, many people don't even say 97%. Look at this article I have right up here. 99% scientific consensus on climate change, but it's a hoax. So, Mike, before I get your input on this, I just want to say this, that we started out with global cooling in the 70s. Then we went acid rain. Then we went global warming. Then we went climate change. And in every single instance, the motivation behind it is to convince everybody in the world of this boogeyman who's going to end humanity. And the only way we're going to defeat the boogeyman is to have a one world government to stand against climate change. And here's one point I like to make to people when they say, and I just heard it a couple days ago, January 2025, the warmest on record. Since when? You have to ask people since when, because in the 1500s, temperatures were significantly warmer than they are right now. Go back to the early 1000s, and they were even higher again for the better part of an entire century. So you have to qualify it by saying, okay, since when? Oh, since 1500. So the world's in danger. Didn't die in the 1500s, didn't die in the 1000s. I believe there was another one that was 2,000 or 3,000 years before Christ that was even worse. So I'll let you take a swing at this one, Mike.
Well, and let's not even forget the little micro ice ages that we've had since then. If you look at the late 1700s, first decade of the 1800s, micro ice age. What do you think was one of the big things that caused the French Revolution? And nobody was able to eat. Weird. Yeah, and like you said, we've been going back all the way back. And you know what you should do? You should pay taxes and we'll fix this for you. Funny, we've been paying taxes about this stuff for at least 50 years now, and I don't remember any of this stuff getting fixed. I mean, last I checked, they still got acid rain in China.
Hey, Mike, do you think that might have something to do with cancer?
No, that couldn't have anything to do with that.
That's a conspiracy theory. How dare you say that?
What kind of an insane conspiracy theorist could you possibly be?
The best.
Yeah, none of this. This is all tact. This is nothing but control. It's monetary control, and it is psychological control. That's all this is.
Yeah, 100%. S2, do you want to take a swing at climate change?
So, yeah, I'd love to take a swing at it with a piñata stick. Yeah, well, when you poll scientists that are monetarily invested in the Green New scam, you're obviously going to get 97 to 99% of them agreeing with it. So
how could you even suggest such a thing?
Well, that goes along with how do you recognize a psyop? You have to understand who benefits from it. Ask the question, who did you poll? I want names.
Well, and that's a good point. I brought it up a few times recently in that they will oversample one particular group to get the results that they want, whether it's a political poll or anything else. And you have to follow it. Absolutely. Very valid point on your behalf. So the next few that I'm going to bring up, I'm going to ask both of you to be very careful with the language that you use, because we're flirting with falling on the wrong side of a YouTube strike with this stuff. But I thought about it as I was putting this together, and we've got to put this information out there for those people who aren't aware of it. Hopefully we don't get a strike from it. We had 2 strikes up until last week. We're now sitting on 1 strike to expire after 90 days. I really don't want to get another strike, not because I love YouTube. I despise YouTube, but we have 428,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and it doesn't do us any good to be silenced and not be able to get stuff out to a larger audience. So right here, medical misinformation, the bait and switch of flatten the curve. So they basically pitched this as a short-term fix for Charlie 19, but the lockdowns, of course, stretched on with shifting rationales for many, many months, even years afterwards. Many people complied and feared that there would be like a collapse of society because we essentially shut our economy down for the most part. Now, here in Florida, we did it for 1 week, and I'm not the biggest fan of Ron DeSantis. He's done an okay job as our governor, but he said after 1 week, he said, you know what, we're not going to do this. And that was the end of it for us here in Florida. Everything returned to normal, except for the Sheeple, who drove their cars by themselves with their masks on. They went swimming with their masks on. They did their exercise with their mask on.
Went to the beach alone with their mask on.
And still are.
Right?
Yes. So many of them. So at the end of the day, if you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch and you sign up for an insider membership, $9.99 a month, you get our daily situation reports, highly curated, very truthful, and has links to everything that we cover on here. But at the end of the day, so this was published June 29, 2020, where flattening the curve has become a massive bait and switch. And you want to talk about something being all about power. here it is, Mike. So you can pick right up where you left off with the climate change boogeyman and roll right into this psyop.
Well, and as a matter of fact, I just found the chart of all the things that you and I were talking about. In the 1960s, oil gone in 10 years. I don't remember that. 1970s, another ice age in 10 years. I remember that. 1980s, acid rain will destroy all crops in 10 years. 90s, the ozone layer will be destroyed in 10 years. Well, we got rid of, all the 80s big hair, so that we did fix that one. The 2000s, the ice caps will be gone in 10 years. And then, this one came up, the big pokey, everybody stay in your housey thing. None of these things happen. It's about control. It's control and nothing but control. Now, the one thing that would be absolutely awful is if they've, since they went too far on this one, it'd be really awful if a real bug came out and then, everybody be like, it's just going to be another thing for the government. And then next thing you know, 50% of the world's population's gone. Whoopsie, but yeah, the kid that cried wolf.
I was just thinking the exact same thing as you said that. Cried wolf one too many times. S2, go ahead and take a run at this. Just like I said, please be careful with your choice of words.
I'll be happy to take a run at this because, guys, I knew about this 30 days before it hit. I got a call from somebody at Fort Detrick telling me 30 days before it hit, they were going to release something. And he asked me very specific questions about what I knew about it because he knew of my employment history with the federal government. And I tried to tell people and nobody would listen. And I said, okay, I've tried to tell at least 50 people so far. None of you are fucking listening to what I'm saying. So I'm going to sit back in my chair and I'm going to laugh while you guys run around here with your hair on fire.
Right.
And that's exactly what I did. And I really hate to say it, but damn, it sucks to be right.
Yeah, it does. So the next one up, I don't want to leave it on screen for very long because the AI will absolutely do OCR, on-screen character recognition. But the next one would be the fifth one out of 7, which is the safe and effective thingy that goes in your shoulder with a pokey thing, as Mike pointed out there. And I'm going to show this very briefly. And that was one of the main companies who made the stuff in the pokey that went in the shoulder. They knew they weren't safe and effective. They knew that the M3 more characters, nanoparticles, circulated throughout the body. And there are people now, and I'm not a doctor, but are predicting a massive wave of suddenly died over the next few years. And God forbid that happens, but it certainly looks like it's a strong possibility. But here was a psyop where you had something completely unproven, did not go through any trials like anything else. And they absolutely knew that this wasn't a good thing. Yet they proceeded with it anyway. They proceeded with a massive psyop that is still going on, like Mike pointed out, to this day. So, Mike, I'll let you briefly take a swing at that. Then S2, I want to get it off the screen.
Yeah. I don't. God, this whole thing was such a whirlwind to all of us, and it just didn't smell right. And really, honestly, who rolls out a virus? Or not a virus, but a cure like that, and they've got it all of a sudden. Like, nah, man, nah, it doesn't happen that way, and they definitely don't clear them for use within that short of a period of time.
Yeah.
That's no, there's something going on. Either somebody knew something well in advance, or this probably doesn't work the way they're saying that this works.
But I think it goes back to your previous comments, Mike, that this was exerting extreme control. Can we get away with this? How far can we push the envelope?
This is control.
Yeah, exactly. S2, I know I changed what's on screen, but speak to the pokey poke stuff quickly, and then we'll move on to number 6.
So to your comment about a wave of people dying, there was a scientist called Luc Montagnier who basically predicted that within the next 10 years there would be a wave of people that were going to be dying off. And we're already starting to see that happen. We've seen it with the effects on people's hearts, particularly the elderly people. Those were the first people that were targeted within that PSYOP. They were the easiest low-hanging fruit to get rid of, and this was about population control at this point, in my opinion. There's a lot more I could say about it, but at the risk of us getting a strike against it, I think that's probably all I want to say at the moment.
And I appreciate that. And I will point out that if you go to libertyclub.net and click on the thumbnail for this video, top left corner of the page, you'll see a link to our live chat on Liberty Club. You're welcome to join us there, where there's no censorship and we can discuss things completely. Also, if you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up. After you install Signal on your phone, we'll give you an invite to our private group over there. Massive amount of intel sharing happens over there. But we'll move on to the next one, number 6. So this is 6 of the top 7 PSYOPs since 2010. The January 6th insurrection and overreach. So this was branded a coordinated coup. The Capitol riot was mostly unarmed chaos. The domestic terrorist label stuck. Then that justified all sorts of crackdowns. It also resulted in crackdowns by big tech, where you couldn't even suggest that the 2020 election was stolen, which we know unequivocally that it was. And at the end of the day, you still have many lies that are being professed to do with January 6th. Joe Biden saying that he attended the funerals of 6 police officers who were killed during January 6th. Only one person was killed on January 6th, 2021. It was Ashley Babbitt, and she was killed by a coward named Michael Byrd. And Michael Byrd has been compensated mega bucks since then, and he blew it all. Now he's in financial trouble again. But we have mountains of evidence that the whole thing was staged by Nancy Pelosi and her crew. And this one in particular bothers me probably more than any of the other ones, simply based on the fact that we have people like Colton McAbee, who was a sheriff's deputy at the time from Tennessee, and they put him in a general population. They bounced him through 21 different penal institutions across the country. They horribly treated the J6ers at the DC gulag, where the guards routinely beat the shit out of J6ers and relished doing so. I don't know that as many people have finally got it through their skull that this was a PSYOP as we'd like to see. If 20 to 30% of Americans still believe in the other stuff, I would hazard to guess upwards of 45, 50% of Americans still believe this was an insurrection. There were no guns. There was no armed takeover. They stayed in between the rails as they went through the Capitol. The charge should have been trespassing, nothing more, nothing less. And Mike, I'll let you roll with this one now.
I mean, we've talked to so many folks that were there up to this point, and you know, absolutely, this whole thing, the narrative that they keep pushing is 100% wrong. On one of the other videos that I sent to my cousin was video of them literally walking between the old velvet ropes, basically getting a guided tour. That's what this was. This was a guided, once they got into the building, this is a guided tour. Nobody was trying to kill anybody. And excuse me. The one thing that I really told my cousin was, hey, if we are the most heavily armed demographic in the country, why weren't there any guns there? You know, if this is an insurrection, don't you think we would have brought some guns? Don't you think? Maybe.
You can't win without them.
There were a million people there. Nothing could have stopped that.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, no. Again, it's about control. Actually, what it's about in this case is power and clinging to power. Because what do people that are in power want more of?
More power.
Yeah.
Right.
Money loses its luster. I mean, money's great and all that, but these people have power and they want to keep that power. And the more you grip tightly, the more grains of sand slip between your fingers.
Absolutely. S2, you're up.
Yeah. So recently, more information's come out that it turns out that DHS HSI had more agents in the crowd than the FBI did. So what's interesting about this is that DHS doesn't really answer to anybody. They don't answer to the DOJ. They don't answer to the FBI. They were another intelligence branch that was created that was allowed to work autonomously within the United States. And who was head of DHS? Mayorkas. Who
Mhm.
was allowing the border to stay open? Mayorkas. Mayorkas is an actor, period. You can look him up on IMDb. He's an actor. Um, the other interesting piece of this is that Jeremy Brown, who just recently was released finally,
Mhm.
was the only one. So they were going around, the HSI folks were going around within all of the militias that they targeted, like the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, and those folks. And they were trying to recruit informants within those militias um, to basically inform on the people that would be there. And Jeremy Brown was visited 2 months before January 6th, and he has recordings of them trying to recruit him. I've heard the recordings, and they can't deny it. And everybody kept wondering, why isn't Jeremy Brown out? Why isn't Jeremy Brown out yet? Because they don't know where those recordings are.
Right.
They
Yeah.
planted evidence in his RV, all kinds of things. They were trying to say that there were human hairs in there when they turned out to be dog hairs. They were trying to say that he was in possession of a hand grenade. Said he had DVDs and CDs of classified information that he brought back from, I think it was Afghanistan. And it's like, yeah, that's probably the first thing I'm thinking about to grab before I leave Afghanistan as a CD.
Right.
But so that's why they didn't let him out immediately, because they're trying to find out. And he didn't sign an NDA, by the way.
Correct. And I was just going to mention that they were pressuring him to sign an NDA before they let him out because he completely destroys their narrative with the truth.
Exactly.
And let's not forget the pure pandemonium that was caused by all those recruiting efforts. Because it turned out like over 50% of those organizations were other federal agents.
Yeah. Well, somebody that was there, I kind of stepped on the outside bounds and I was looking around. And I kept asking myself, because I saw gun barrels coming out over very high buildings where I was sitting. And I looked up and I'm like, they have snipers up on that roof. And
Mhm.
then I looked across at another one. They have snipers on that roof. And it was just totally weird, because next to them I saw one army officer that kind of poked his head over and was looking down at the ground. And I'm like, why is there an army officer in full dress uniform on top of that roof? That's kind of weird. Now, I know you and me, Mike, we've talked about this, and there may be a feasible explanation for this, but the whole thing was just so surreal watching it. And I've gotten pictures of the Antifa people that were changing into their Trump gear under the trees, all kinds of stuff. It's nothing that that a lot of other people don't have. But yeah, it was just
Surprise.
the whole thing. I knew when I went up there. I was told not to go for that very reason, but I went up there because I was thinking that maybe somebody was going to need medical support. So I had my plate carrier with me and I had it stuffed full of medical gear.
Right on, right on. Okay, so moving on to the seventh and final PSYOP 2010 through to present would be the disinformation censorship crusade that started in 2020, essentially. So basically, tech giants and the government targeted misinformation on multiple topics, Charlie 19, elections, and the list goes on. The border is secure, et cetera, et cetera. And if anybody tried to speak out against that, they would be, deplatformed. Their content would be deleted. They would be the target of lawfare. They would be debanked. Eric Trump sued, I'm trying to remember which bank it was, maybe Bank of America this week, over having all of the Trump bank accounts were shut down on the construction side, the real estate side of Trump's business. And that was just one of many tools. Mike Lindell, they dang near bankrupted him in the process of debanking him and taking away payment processors and all the stuff that goes with that. So in tonight's sit rep, there's links to everything as per usual. And that goes into, well, first one here is election related stuff. So if you said anything that even remotely indicated that the election wasn't valid in 2020, you were either shadow banned, suppressed, or deleted off of the platforms. And even if you're not a data scientist, and even if you don't have the desire to dive deep into the evidence here, the question then is, how did Barack Obama first election, Barack Obama second election, Hillary Clinton 2016, Kamala Harris 2024, they all had 65, 67, 68 million votes. But we're supposed to believe that 15 million votes mysteriously appeared out of nowhere in 2020 to give Biden 81 million votes with 16% of the counties. And then that 15 million votes evaporated again come 2024. There was massive election threat. And the fact that we weren't able to speak to that pretty much tells you all you need to know. If the government is telling you can't talk about something, then you're directly over the target. So I have multiple articles that are in tonight's sit rep, but here's another one. Canada's censorship crusade targets tech giants in a push for disinformation control. So all of the Western governments had backdoors into Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. So number one, they could identify you if you spoke out against anything that was against the narrative. Number two, they all had the ability to suppress you. They all had the ability to delete your content, but they were also able to build cases against people and drag people into court and then convict them of essentially telling the truth under the guise of it being misinformation. So here's an article, June 7th, 2023, Washington throws a pity party for federal censors finally being investigated. So by this point in time, you've got Elon Musk purchasing X and restoring a significant portion of free speech. Not all of it. There's a lot of woke code under the hood that still penalizes people like us if you say the wrong thing. But if he hadn't have opened things up with X and allowed people to discuss the 2020 election and all of this other misinformation, Psyops that we're discussing, we may not be having this conversation tonight, at least not in the current context. So I want to move on just a little bit further because it ties back into the disinformation. It also ties into the Russia that we started with. So Perkins Coie is a DNC law firm, and they were responsible for the Russia collusion hoax and a bunch of other stuff. They hired Fusion GPS. They hired Christopher Steele and paid him to write this dossier. They lobbied heavily for election law changes. They had offices inside of FBI buildings where they could coordinate with the FBI. I mean, absolutely brutal. I've got a 1 minute, 12-second video of a executive order from Donald Trump this week where he basically cut them off from getting any top secret content or anything that's classified, I should say. And then Mike, I'm coming to you first.
Sir, your
And
administration
from federal buildings too.
priority both to end lawfare and the weaponization of government, and also to hold those who have engaged in lawfare accountable. One of the law firms that has been involved in that is called Perkins Coie. That's also a law firm that has engaged in unlawful DEI practices. This executive order will suspend
And I've watched it take place.
This executive order will suspend security clearances and access to certain federal resources for that law firm, and also launch a holistic review of unlawful DEI practices at some of the nation's largest law firms.
This is an absolute honor to sign. What they've done is it's just terrible. It's weaponization. You could say weaponization against a political opponent, and it should never be allowed to happen again.
All right, Mike. So I'm going to come to you. The disinformation crusade, which, let's face it, they're still trying to do what they can, but thankfully they don't hold any levers to power right now.
Well, and it's great that he's getting to the bottom of this stuff, and because he's not the only one that they've used it against. I mean, look at all the people down the years that they've used this sort of thing against, and it just comes down to, oh well, we don't have any dirt on them. Let's just make up some dirt on them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how these people stay in power. That's how things happen in DC. It's all leverage. If we don't have dirt on you, we're either going to manufacture dirt on you, or we're going to get you into, we'll take you to a congressional party, get you loaded, and put you into some form of a compromising position. We'll get some pictures of it, and now we own you forever, and you're going to vote exactly the way that we want you to vote. And it's just the way that it works there. And I'm so glad that we're tearing that system down.
So I want to just add a comment to your comments, Mike, and say that they did all of this under the guise of the public good. We are doing this for you. We are making sure that nobody speaks this disinformation, when in reality it was very truthful. S2, your chance to take a swing at the last Psyop for chapter 1. I think you're on mute, S2.
I think one step that may have been missed in this is they need to ban them from all federal buildings. You want to put a law firm like that out of business, don't let them in the damn courtroom. And if they show up, you arrest them for contempt.
That's a great suggestion.
And it needs to be on an individual basis too, not just the firm, because the firm will change their name,
right,
and be back in business a week later. You hit the firm and you hit the individuals.
Yeah.
What I want to know is all of the people that were persecuted by this law firm, Rudy Giuliani, who, let's face it, Giuliani, he's not whistle clean either. He's got some stuff on him. But all of these people, that relatively innocent people out there that have been persecuted by this law firm, I want to know where they are going to be able to recover their financial wherewithal and their dignity that was stolen from them by this law firm.
Yeah, good points, S2. Appreciate that. All right, so moving on from there. Actually, I wanted to mention this comment from Cheesecake. It's unbelievable these law firms could stay on security clearance for years. It is. It's absolutely unbelievable. But that's what happens when your buddies are in control of the entire government.
That's the deep state.
The deep state, great way of saying it for sure. So I want to point out a couple things that are available to everybody out there to help with this stuff. So there's a guy named Chase Hughes. So ChaseHughges, ChaseHughes.com. And he teaches everything that's related to this, how your behavior is influenced, what psyops look like, what are the criteria that you can look at. There's even a scorecard that he has on his website here. He has some courses for free. Some of them you pay for. I've gone through his free stuff, and it is really, really high quality. And I actually thought to myself before I dove into it, I'm probably not going to learn anything. And I was wrong. There was some stuff in there that I was not aware of. And I'm glad that I spent a little bit of time going down this rabbit hole. And again, if you get tonight's brief, patreon.com/survival dispatch, there's links to everything. This particular video, you're welcome to look it up as well. And it's under his name, Chase Hughes, as you can see down here in the bottom left corner. This is an 18-minute video that goes through the characteristics of psyops. So if you want to improve your ability to identify psyops, then this is a good watch. Now, I don't know why, but there's 2 separate copies of this video on YouTube. The other one is called How to Spot a Psyop, Chase Hughes, but it's on John Thor's channel. I have a feeling maybe they did that just as a backup in case Big Brother decides to delete one, there's a backup. But here is what he calls his Psyops identification tool. And this is version 8.3. You can download it from his website. So ChaseHughes.com. Go ahead and download this, and I'll zoom in a bit. I know it's still an eye test, but it has all kinds of different categories. So let's stick with number 2, emotional manipulation. The question is, does it provoke fear, outrage, or guilt without solid evidence? And an example would be Reports show crying children and dying wildlife, but avoid the causes. And then you can give it a score somewhere between 1 and 5. And when you get down to the bottom, depending on the number. So if it's 76 to 100 is the final score, it's an overwhelming sign that it is a psyop. I'm just going to make a couple quick comments. There's a reason I chose number 2, emotional manipulation. So if you go on any major platform, video platform, you just search for Simon Sinek, Sinek, How Great Leaders Inspire. He describes at very high level how the human brain works and how we make decisions that are predicated on feelings. So the perimeter of the human brain, the neocortex, processes all forms of communication, written, verbal, and otherwise. The center of the human brain, and I am oversimplifying, is called the limbic brain, and it does 2 things. That's where your feelings are generated and your decisions are made. So if somebody said to you, hey, why did you do this thing? And you said, just felt like the right thing to do, that is the limbic brain on display. So I think it was 2015, we surpassed 1 million words in the English language. Approximately 170 of them are considered power words. Power words evoke emotion. So, for example, some common ones would be the word crush. In other words, if you said to somebody, we're really going to beat the opposition this weekend, that's not terribly exciting. But if somebody said, we're going to crush the opposition this weekend, that will evoke emotion and therefore get them to buy into whatever the narrative is that you're trying to tell them. So all of the categories that are identified by Chase Hughes are important, and he's a preeminent expert in this. And I'm not. I'm maybe like an enthusiastic amateur, for lack of a better term. But number 2 is the big one. If something's happening and evoking emotion, then you've got to step back and have a look at it and look at the other criteria. Is everybody repeating the same thing verbatim, meaning the talking heads on legacy media? If that's the case, no ifs, ands, or buts that it's complete and utter BS. And we had the image up earlier of basically the sheeple being convinced of something. Sorry, didn't mean to insult anybody, but it's the right word. And it specifically points out that over 90%, 96%, let me put it back up again, 6 companies controlled 96% of world media. So the people who are brought up believing in legacy media are much more prone to falling for this stuff. Let me just give you a little bit of context. I'm coming to you, Mike. In 1980, there were over 500 independent news organizations in America alone. And again, now 96% of the entire world, the media is owned by 6 companies. They completely control the narrative. When they get on this mockingbird routine, no ifs, ands, or buts, you're being fed a line of shit. And it's time to go look at the other criteria, especially the money. Mike, let's get your take here on the final leg of chapter 1.
S2, what was that damn James Bond movie from the 90s that the bad guy owned all the media companies because he said, I own the information so I can make the world do anything that I want them to do? Something like that. You remember the one I'm talking about?
I can't remember the name of it, but it was Christopher Walken, and he owned Zoran Industries.
Right. Yeah. Something. Yeah. Yeah. And he owned like almost all the press in the world.
No.
That's very-
That wasn't Christopher Walken. That was that other dude that owned the submarine.
I mean, you're
Sorry.
really not narrowing it down for a Bond movie, man. Anyway,
Yeah. Sorry.
anyway, I mean, we all know this is, I mean, for one person, Tomorrow Never Dies. Thank you, Jay
There it is.
Dixon.
Right on.
Appreciate you. Yeah, having all of anything under one roof is a bad thing. I seem to remember something about a little over 100 years ago, something about breaking up monopolies. Oh yeah, we did that. You don't want monopolies. Monopolies are bad. And if everybody in the room is saying and thinking the exact same thing, then somebody's not thinking.
There's
Yeah.
a reason. There's a reason why the Israelis have a doctrine where they have 13 people in a committee. And if all 12 people, all of the other 12 people agree, it's the responsibility and duty of the 13th guy to disagree. He has to. He has no choice.
Interesting. Do either of you have anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up chapter 1?
Well, one other thing I would like to add to this is that there's one piece that's missing out of Chase's diagram, is that you need to determine what the target audience is. The target audience, we have such a large demographic of peoples that they target these psyops for particular groups of people. So for instance, I'll use the Barnard Hall thing that's been going on for the last couple of weeks up in New York. They're trying to target the Arabs and the Palestinians here in the United States and abroad and incite them into action is what they're doing there. And then you have to determine whether it's an overt or a covert action.
Good point. Good point. Well said. So I just have one last thing before we pivot. And this is pretty well said, actually, which is why I put it in the end of chapter 1 here. Okay, so Ukraine war is the new Charlie 19. Putin is the new virus. Zelensky is the new Fauci. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing are the new Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. Bullets, bombs, and jets and drones are the new pokey thing in your shoulder. The Ukrainian flag is the new mask. I stand with Ukraine is the new your mask protects me. And the lockdowns are our stolen tax dollars. What am I forgetting? I don't follow this guy. It just popped up in my feed at Sir BYLHOLTE if you want to check him out. But this is just an example of the psyops all share these common denominators, like S2 mentioned, and it can apply to multiple different types of situations, just like what's going on in Ukraine right now. So we're going to
there's one thing he forgot here. Michelle Obama stands to urinate.
Yeah, right. All right. So we got a short message from our sponsor, Sawyer Products. We'll be right back.
The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
All right, so we're into chapter 2 now. So first one will go to Mike. Second story will go to S2. I think we've got maybe 15 or so headline stories to get through. And the only way we can do it is bounce back and forth from one person to another. So this one caught my eye. Memo to the post-Biden DOJ, all roads lead to Obama. They do, but they lead to Brennan, and then John Brennan over top of Obama. Brennan is the bridge between Obama and the New World Order, the cabal, the WEF, Soros, whatever you want to call it. And this particular person here, Wayne Allen Root, is considered a preeminent subject matter expert on this particular topic. And essentially, he paints a really compelling picture in this article without being overly verbose on how Barack Obama has done everything he possibly could from the time he was first president and all the way through to his third shadow government that just ended, in trying to usher in the age of socialism and communism in America. And I could read this whole article verbatim, but I'm not going to do that. But I do want to hit on this because this ties into chapter 1 tonight. Obama is the man behind the spying on Trump, the Russian collusion scam, the green energy scam, the intentional destruction of America with open borders, and the persecution of Trump. Okay, so going backwards, we've just gone through years of lawfare being waged against Donald Trump that is completely beyond the pale. We've also just gone through 4 years of Mayorkas and the Biden admin, but Obama opening our southern border and flooding us with millions of illegals. And why did they do that? Well, The Democrats, the liberals, the progressives, whatever you want to call them, but they don't breed, they don't have kids. So if they don't import illegals to vote for them in the future and they don't indoctrinate your children, they will go the way of the dodo. So that's why Mayorkas threw the southern border wide open. We have not passed any new laws, and we've gone from highs of 11,000 illegals that we encountered on a daily basis in the southern border to a couple hundred. But they needed legislation because the bipartisan legislation they came up with codified a minimum of 5,000 illegals per day being put on a fast track to get American citizenship so they could vote for them. What is the green energy scam? Well, it's essentially to weaken us. China opens a new coal burning electric plant every other day. They are the manufacturing powerhouse of the world when that used to be our distinction. And by making things having to comply with this green energy scam, it weakens us to the point where a great example would be the Chinese shipbuilding industry, military shipbuilding industry has somewhere between 300 and 500 times the industrial capacity that we do to build warships. So if, for example, they took out all of our aircraft carriers inside of 20 minutes, which Pete Hegseth has mentioned is a possibility with hypersonic missiles, we couldn't rebuild what we need to win or defeat them. And as Pete Hegseth has mentioned, every single time that there's been war gamed out, whether it be AI or otherwise, old school war gaming, we lose every single time to China. And again, this goes back to the Russian collusion and spying on Trump while he was running for president the first time around. Obama is a massive blight on America. And I don't have any faith whatsoever that he'll be charged or that he'll face any consequences. But all we can do with Obama is try to mitigate his actions going forward. Mike, this one is for you.
Well, honestly, this is up S2's alley way better than mine, but I agree with you. This whole thing is, this goes back to him and all the people that fed him. I hate to say it, but into a Manchurian candidate situation, he was chosen to fill that place.
Correct. So, S2, do you want to add to that, and then we'll move on? You don't have to.
I forgot the question. Obviously I'm multitasking at the moment.
Yeah, no worries. So I'll give you the next one here, which is China is an awful place, but you can't say so online or you'll disappear. So we've known that the CCP has been doing this for years, but there's a video that went semi-viral recently where they found people. Here's a mother, for example, chained up and left out in the cold because she did something that the CCP didn't want her to do. She was vocal. She spoke out, and she therefore was punished. So I'll just read this one segment here. It's one of the biggest credibility challenges Beijing has faced in recent years. The chained woman became a symbol of injustice that brought together liberals as well as nationalistic digital warriors and apolitical moderates. Many of them are worried that the chain on her neck, in a literal and figurative sense, could fall on them or their loved ones. The video of the chained woman has led to a kind of Me Too movement on the Chinese internet, in which many people step forward to share stories of mothers, daughters, sisters, and classmates who were abducted or simply disappeared. The top 3 hashtags about the chained woman on the Twitter-like social media platform Weibo have accumulated more than 10 billion views, rivaling those about the Beijing Winter Olympics, which were heavily promoted by Weibo and official media outlets. This is essentially the Chinese version of disinformation control, right, Estu?
Yeah, well, that story basically was about a woman that the woman that had a chain around her neck. Apparently, it's not unusual, but she was abducted from the rural countryside in Zhujiao, and it's not unusual for the CCP's brown shirts or to go out and abduct young girls from the countryside, and then they turn around and basically sell them to their next husbands, and they get passed around and passed around and passed around until it's basically the same thing they do with children here and abroad with the child sex trafficking. But this is what the CCP does. They've always done this. They've done it since Mao. They've did it in Vietnam, where dozens of children disappeared to go to re-education camps or indoctrination camps
Mm.
to basically teach them that anybody that didn't follow the communist doctrine was bad, and they had to die for it. So this is not unusual. I mean, we have several businessmen that have disappeared from China as well. We've
Mhm.
had people that have been caught here for espionage that get sent back to China that disappear immediately. So it's not unusual that anytime the CCP becomes embarrassed by a certain activity they are doing, they quickly move to sweep it under the rug somehow.
Yeah, well said.
I mean, it just says everything about a country when if you can't show that picture anywhere, if anybody can see that from Tiananmen Square, if you can't show that anywhere in that country without getting arrested for it, that should say everything that you ever needed to know.
Well, that's a psyop in itself.
Mm.
Definitely. All right, next one up. Amy Coney Barrett, illusion is officially dead, and we called it years ago when John Wheaton and I were covering the State of the Union address by Trump this week. The look on her face when she locked eyes with Trump, which was the night before this ridiculous ruling saying that a lower court can tell the president what he can and cannot authorize for expenses and payments. This has been a really, really bad pick. She has not turned out to be a good Supreme Court justice, and shame on her. Honestly, shame on her. Mike, this one's yours.
She's, like you said, I mean, she was a bad pick. She's shown herself to be extremely partisan. And a little bit of a political windsock, and that is absolutely what you do not want a judge to be. You're a judge. We want you there to look at the law, and that's it. Not what's going on in the country, not what's what you've got going on with your family. We don't care about any of that. Judge the law.
So, question for you, Mike. There's multiple pundits out there saying that after Antifa and these other creeps were picketing Brett Kavanaugh's home, that she got scared and has caved in to the left in return for them not harassing her family. I can't say that it's truthful report or not, but it's plausible.
It's plausible. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. All right, S2, next one up. Britain bows to Sharia. Labor MPs push to criminalize photos of Muslim women without hijabs. WTF, seriously. Like,
Brits, I only have one thing to say to you. Start posting all of the photos of American women in bikinis.
Yeah. Do it.
That is too funny. All right, moving on. Next one up for you, Mike. And again, I'm very ambivalent towards Ron DeSantis as our governor. On the whole, he's done a pretty good job in Florida, but when his wife talked him into being buddies with Paul Ryan, who's a WEF clown, and to run against Trump, I lost a lot of respect for him. His wife now is trying to be the next governor of Florida, and there's not a hope in hell that myself or anybody in our family would vote for her. But one of the problems I have with Pam Bondi, all of the Jeffrey Epstein stuff aside, she's the one who brought red flag laws to Florida. And I've been hammering on this from the time that Trump nominated her. I don't trust her because that red flag laws are complete and utter bullshit. It's too easy to abuse and take somebody's guns away from them. And especially when you have, say, a boyfriend, girlfriend get in a fight, falling out, whatever the case may be. Do you have red flag laws in Alabama, Mike?
Nah, man.
Yeah.
No, we got neighbors.
Fair enough. Thoughts on red flag laws in general, then?
Oh yeah, they've got to go. There's too many pitfalls with the whole thing. They were not thought out. I mean, the original intent behind the whole thing, I get it. All right, I don't like it, but I get it. but it comes down to there's way too many pitfalls. There's no controls on the whole situation, and it does not take into consideration, I hate to say it, crazy girlfriends or boyfriends. It doesn't take that into effect. It does not at all. Now, you guys would have been proud. I impersonated this guy several times just the other day down in Florida because chef's kiss. I was beautiful. Yeah, I did a great job. Just so you know.
That's too funny. All right, next one up is you, S2, squarely in your wheelhouse. German government-funded NGO worked with Antifa to dox threaten alleged conservative citizens. And this was yesterday that this was brought to light.
I mean, once again, not surprising. Antifa originated in Germany, as does some other subjects that I've seen in the brief tonight that I hope I get to comment on. But yeah, they tried that here in the United States too. That didn't work out so well for them. They tried it on me a couple of times, and I was like, yeah, no, this isn't going to work. So I've confronted them several times, and they generally go running off like a bunch of little pussies.
Yeah.
Really did not work out well for them here in Alabama at all.
The word soy boy comes to mind. I actually had one of the AstroTurfers argue with me in the comment section of one of our videos that soy absolutely decreases testosterone, but it increases estrogen. And according to this guy, estrogen is more anabolic for men than testosterone is. You can't make this shit up. You can't make it up. But
Did
anyway.
you tell him to go take a physiology class, moron?
I was going to say, did you sleep through school? Is that what you're telling me here? You slept through school, didn't you?
So I might know a thing or two when it comes to performance enhancing drugs. Let me say this much. Every single anabolic steroid out there is a derivative of the male hormone testosterone. I'll just leave it at that. It's not a derivative of estrogen. None of them are derivatives of estrogen.
Lower class citizen. We now have retard finder. I now think I'm going to become pussy finder.
I freaking love retard finder. He's awesome. All right. Next one up, back to you, Mike. ABC News now imploding too. The business model for the Pravda media, so back to the USSR, by the way, has consisted of keep lying to the American people about Donald Trump and everything else. And it turns out that this only works in the short term. Eventually, people figure it out and look for other ways to stay informed about the state of the world. CNN, MSNBC, The Washington Post, and news outlets nationwide are seeing their viewership, readership, and clicks fall through the floor as the independent media sphere keeps growing in prominence and profitability. CNBC reports today that CNN will be laying off hundreds of its 3,500 employees later this week as the network struggles to make money following the 2024 election. They are on their way to bankruptcy. Nobody watches CNN anymore. And the bloodbath goes on and on and on. I mean, I'm assuming you're heartbroken over this, Mike.
So okay, I'm gonna go on ahead and I'm gonna throw out a little story, little war story. Back in the day, I'm in Iraq, and we had just come in from a large post-blast investigation north of town, and we had to drive through some of the markets and everything like that to get back. And we're sitting there, everybody's filing their reports, and we've got CNN playing because, in the early 2000s, CNN was still on every government TV screen, right, because they had some sort of, standing in the world. So we're sitting there and we start hearing all of the news agencies start talking about a car bombing that happened in the Rumalaya marketplace. And we all said, wait a minute, didn't we just drive through there like 2 hours ago? Yeah. So the skipper, he comes in, and he was a British Navy commander. And he says, all right, everybody drop what you're doing, start calling all your contacts. Let's find out what's going on there. And literally, we had just driven through there 2 hours ago, and this had allegedly happened like an hour before we drove through. A large car bomb killing 60 civilians. Funny, we didn't see anything. So we call around, we talk to everybody. Nobody knows what this is about. So eventually the boss says, hey, you two go over to the Rustamaya Hotel in the green zone. That's where all the press hung out. We went over there, we go over to the press room, and we start asking around. And it turns out that these dirtbag newsies were having such a slow week that they just made it up.
Imagine that.
Yeah, amazing, right? So, yeah, no car bomb had gone off, but it made us look bad. So they were happy with it. And these guys are all going, they're not able to make payroll and everything like that. Why? Well, let's see. They're not getting a bunch of pay on the backside from USAID.
Somebody just asked that in the comment section. Wonder how much USAID money was
that. And let's face it, what's the one thing that is replacing mainstream media? Because mainstream media has no credibility anymore, right? Because they have no credibility. What is hopped up in its place? X. Yep. Open social media is the place where you get your news, not somebody else's opinion on your news. I want my news raw.
Yeah, very well said, Mike. All right, moving on to the next one for US 2. All right, Tucker, every other group in the world has a right to its own homeland except white people. Explain how that makes sense. It's a 2-minute video. I'll play a good portion of it.
Well, just on principle, like every other group in the world has the right to its own homeland except white people. Like what? Yeah. Like tell me, just explain to me how that makes sense. Either no group has the right or every group has the right. Yep. It's really that simple. And if you want to say no group has right, okay. You might even convince me. I don't know. I'm not a race guy, actually, by my temperament at all. I'd kind of like to ignore it. But as long as some groups have a right to self-determination, then every group has a right. Yep. It's that simple. Yes. And if there's a special carve out where one group doesn't have a right, you have to explain to me why that group doesn't have that right.
Yep.
Is that fair?
No, it's absolutely fair. Well, I think South Africa is a
what? I mean, what the hell why are we playing along with this nonsense?
Yeah, it's this narrative has become this massive stream that is turned into rapids on a river that just pulls everyone along. And this narrative just says if you're white, then there's inherently something wrong with you.
It doesn't make any sense, and it's leading toward a really bad conclusion, obviously, as it has for every other group targeted in this way has really suffered and there are a lot of them. Okay, it's not, there are a lot of them.
Yep,
and it never ends up well. And I just don't know why we're playing along where you're not even allowed to say, oh, you haven't been. I don't care anymore, obviously. But again, either every group has a right to self-determination or no group does.
So the context for this conversation, for the people who haven't caught it, is the government in South Africa is saying that they are going to expropriate land from white farmers, the Boers, with no compensation. And if they don't like it, they can leave. And Trump, in turn, has extended an olive branch and says they can come here with a fast track to citizenship, which Russia actually tried that with the Boers a few years ago. And I don't know that they got much traction on it, but they basically said, hey, bring your expertise and come farm our land. And now Trump's going to do the same thing. I think it's a good move. Your thoughts as to?
Well, the deeper connotation of this video is the Great Replacement theory. Where they're basically saying that all white people in South Africa either have to get out or they're going to die.
Right.
It's that simple. I actually made a proposal, or I actually asked Elon Musk a question today because he's from South Africa. And I said this, I said, since we're in hostage negotiation season, I said, why don't we, for every South African white farmer that they send over to the United States, we send them a corrupt politician? Sounds fair to me.
That's absolutely brilliant.
I mean, and then there's that think? One that, go ahead too.
No, and then I asked him, what do you think? Still waiting on a response, but we'll see.
I mean, we had that other option as well. That was for every Boer that leaves out of South Africa, they come to the US, then we move a Palestinian out of the Middle East down to there.
Well, we have enough of those in our Congress that we could make that happen.
I mean, we can move that. Yeah, we can move. Yeah, we can move them.
Ilhan Omar. We can move Rashida Tlaib. You know, we can,
right? Yeah, they can have them. I mean, they're not Palestinian, but I don't care. They can have them we'll give them those free gratis. You know, I mean, just sweetening the deal a little bit, man.
I think it's a brilliant idea. I second the motion.
Yeah.
There's Rome 2,000 years ago in Africa, maybe an hour ago.
Yeah. So and honestly, anybody that believes the oh man, Africa's a great place. You've never been to Africa. I've been to Africa several times.
You get the tourist tour when you go over there.
Yeah.
TIA. Lions and tigers and giraffes. Oh my.
Next one up is for you, Mike. I'm about to launch effing missiles. Florida man vowed to make it Trump's last day on Earth, called 911 to ask for a ride to the assassination. Florida man. This shit doesn't happen anywhere except for Florida. They didn't even have to say Florida man.
It happens in Oregon too.
It does. That's just. I'm sure your parents are very proud of you, kid. Yeah, you are winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you even need to comment on that moron.
No, I don't think so either. But anyway, Boston mayor tells illegals, you belong here. This is your home. 17 seconds.
You belong here. This is your home. Boston es tu hogar. Boston se la cayu. This is our city. English. We are the safest major city in the nation because we are safe for everyone. You belong here.
S2, are any of these clowns going to get charged? Do we have to start a new pool here or what?
To be honest with you, Nancy Mace actually referred all four of them over to the DOJ.
Well,
so
I thought Anna Luna Paulina or whatever, I thought she was referring them to.
She might be. I didn't catch hers, but I caught Nancy Mace just because she's probably going to become my senator at some point.
Right.
Yeah, this chick, how dare she wear the Christ symbol on her forehead is all I can say.
Yeah, I concur completely. Mike, next one up is pretty serious stuff for you. Hitler was defeated by the opposition party because they held up tiny signs on paddles.
Well, I mean, we all know that's what ended World War II. You know, a lot of people like to throw out that misinformation and say that nuclear weapons did it, but it was those tiny paddles. Absolutely 100%, especially the big one that Joe Stalin held up. It was actually smaller than everybody else's. And honestly, nobody could read it because it's in Cyrillic, but that's beside the point. It had a great effect.
This is a really big thing here in Florida, the pickleball capital of the world. You can control politics and play pickleball all with the same implement.
Man, and, well, you know what? You could play ping pong with it too.
You could, absolutely.
Pickleball is for fucking faggots that can't figure out how to work a tennis racket.
Oh my God, you didn't really capture the full, aspect of that. It's retarded faggots. It's not just faggots, retarded faggots.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, one of these days too, I really hope that you're going to be able to, let your feelings out, share them with the rest of us so that, this is a safe place.
I actually didn't mean to say that out loud. It just came out.
Damn intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, inside voice.
I have Tourette's. What can I say?
There you go. This next one, I don't know if y'all had a chance to look at the brief before we went live tonight, but this is a really interesting example of how victimhood, if you think you're a victim, you essentially are a victim, right? We used to always say in the construction industry, if you think you're going to fall off a wall or a roof, you're going to fall off the wall or the roof. It's powerful stuff. 57 seconds.
They did an experiment with a group of women, and they put scars on their faces, and they told these women that they're going into a job interview, and the purpose of the experiment is to find out whether people with facial disfigurements face discrimination. They showed them the scars in the mirror. The women saw themselves with these scars, and as they led them out of the room, they said, we're just going to touch it up a little bit. And as they touched it up, they removed the scarring completely. So the women went into the job interview thinking that they are scarred, but actually being their normal selves. And the result of the experiment is that those women then came back reporting massively increased level of discrimination. Indeed, many of them came back with comments that the interviewer had made that they felt were referencing their facial disfigurements. And this is why I think this ideology of victimhood is so dangerous, because if you preach to people constantly that we're all oppressed, then that primes people to look for that.
S2, your thoughts on that? It's a pretty interesting experiment.
So the victimhood ideology is tied to external control. It's where people believe that their lives are dictated by external forces, and it's a perspective that is linked to moral elitism and the fact that they tend to focus in on and they never let go of the past victimization. So in the end, they become self-loathing because of that. And it has something to do with their self-esteem. I've seen this in a lot of people actually, and they all happen to be liberals. So,
well, I mean, they're all,
and I see it in a lot of kids nowadays too. Largely the ones that went through the last, or rather the first part of the last 8 years, if you understand what I mean.
yeah. All right, next one up's for you, Mike, and this is in your wheelhouse. Trump turns off U.S. missiles in Ukraine. No satellite guidance. Expand on that a little bit, Mike, since this is your world.
Yeah, real simple. Fuck around and find out.
Technically expand on the topic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So the sorry, the HIMARS HIMARS and MLRS GPS guided missiles, they rely on specific coding. And if that coding is not there, they won't accept any of the GPS signal. So they don't know where to go. Now they'll go there, but there's circular error probability as opposed to normally it should be a circular error probability of about 1 meter.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's stupid accurate. You can choose what window you want to put one of those things through on a house, or without that, then your circular error probability probably is going to be around 500 meters. It's a thing, and the
that's a big delta.
Yeah, well, the ones that we gave them, they don't have all the same guidance that ours have. They got the export model, and ours have multiple redundant systems. So it's not just GPS that ours use, which was, if you go back to 2003 when we started bombing Iraq, he had a bunch of Russian GPS jammers running, and that made our JDAMs go from a half meter circular error probability to, oh no, 1.5 meters. Oh no.
So what you're saying is they got the made for Canada models.
Yes, they did. Right. Yes, they did. You think, I mean, if there's an opportunity, if there's a chance for this stuff to wind up falling into the hands of Russians, the last thing they need is our specific good guidance systems.
All right, appreciate that.
Already have them.
Well, yeah.
So Pete Hegseth is on record multiple times saying that any war game scenario between us and China, we lose. And in this video, he says we're prepared to go to war. China responds by saying we're ready to fight to the end, regardless if the U.S. wants a trade war, tariff war, or actual war. Are we actually prepared for a physical war with China? I'm not going to play the full 2 minutes, but I want you to hear it directly from him because this is contradictory to what he said before.
Yeah, on Tuesday, the commander-in-chief doubled down, Chinese tariffs on imports from 10 to 20%. In return, China retaliated with a 10 to 15% tariff increase on U.S. imports. Plus, China's foreign ministry spokesperson posting on X saying, quote, "If war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight until the end." Wow. So let's welcome in retired Navy captain and GOP strategist Armin Kurdian to talk a bit more about this. Armin, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me today.
I'm looking forward to this conversation because I'm curious what you have to say. There are some who would argue, Armin, that China has already been engaged in cyber warfare and information warfare with the United States. However, the big question is the U.S. military actually ready for an actual physical war with China if it were to come to that?
Well, Terrence, I wish I could be super optimistic, but the way things are progressing right now in the far west, in the 7th Fleet region, AOR, I have some great concerns. China realizes a direct force-on-force fight with the United States is probably something they will still lose and could lose for the foreseeable future. But they don't necessarily need to do that. They've been building missiles and other types of weapons very fast. They have a very robust cyber capabilities, you've said. And I have very grave concerns about all of the, Chinese, military-aged men that crossed our border illegally or come in and say, hey, I would like a new life. I see a lot of these guys as sleeper agents, as potentially causing acts of sabotage and other types of attacks, so that when China does try to retake Taiwan, we might have our heads down here with attacks against power structure, cyber attacks, air traffic control systems, and that sort of thing. So China has been planning this for a very long time. I think the military is still capable of taking it on, but I think we have to get a lot more serious with the Chinese threat.
S2, this one's yours.
Horse shit. China is not looking to go to war with the United States. That is a shot over the bow from the globalists, is what that is. China knows it can't go into a kinetic war. John and I talked about this last night, actually. China's been a paper tiger for a long time. Can they build ships? Yes, they can build ships. Will their ships withstand anything? No, they might as well be Coke cans. They break down frequently. They're not built as good as our stuff is from World War II, in fact. As far as the whole cyber and information warfare, well, that's a no shit Sherlock moment. You guys are just now admitting that? Okay. So this has all of the elements of everything that the WEF has been doing for the last 8 years. Every single element of it, especially where they've been talking about the cyber warfare with the Polygon Crisis desktop simulation that they ran, back to the pandemic operation that they ran, everything. This is the WEF talking. This isn't China talking.
Very interesting. I appreciate that. That's good insight. Mike, did you catch this week when Tulsi in a press conference said that almost 100 terrorist-linked migrants were released in 2024 by Mayorkas's clown show?
Yeah, I saw that. But we were talking about that at the time that they were doing that sort of thing. I mean, we've all been watching this. I mean, granted, all the information that we were getting was back channel.
Correct.
But we've been seeing it. We've been talking about this. We've been screaming it to the heavens. And how many people patted us on the head and said, "Oh, that's sweet. You guys are, you should loosen up your tinfoil just a little bit."
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the normie norms, as John likes to call them, coming to grips with this?
I think now that we're starting to see this actually come out from, well, I hate to say it, but mainstream media, it's posting up there. And if it posts there, it's either an outright lie, or it's such a no duh moment that it actually had to push its way to the top.
Okay.
Well, I'll add to that, the cognitive dissonance here is some of the intel that we've been getting through the back channels, because what we've been getting through the back channels indicates that it's a lot more than almost 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. S2, next one is yours. The House censures Al Green for disrupting Trump address to Congress. I don't know if you caught this or not, but the Democrats, what is with them singing everywhere these days? Have you caught this? They were singing in Congress. They've been singing at their rallies, and it's straight out of the late 1960s hippie stuff. Not one of them can sing, by the way.
But we shall overcome.
Yeah. It's something from Nazi period in time, I'm sure, because that seems to be where they take all of their weird shit from here. But oh yeah, this guy, he's the hobo in a suit who paid off a lady that he apparently was sexually harassing almost $1 million out of the taxpayer slush fund. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Good. I hope they've thrown him off of all of his committees and he has nothing to do but sit in his office and twiddle his thumbs until he gets primaried.
Yeah, he's brutal. He's absolutely brutal. Next one up is yours, Mike. Christy Noam says ICE leakers have been identified and are facing prosecution. What I read on this, by the way, is that they're facing a potential 10-year prison sentence.
Good.
And yeah, it wouldn't even hurt me if the law allowed for a greater period of incarceration, but they put those ICE agents in the direct line of harm by doing this.
This is one of those moments, one of those few moments in a person's life where you get to pull out the quote from Scipio Africanus when they had just conquered Carthage, and he said, right after he told everybody, yep, we're going to break every stone, we're going to kill all the men and sell all the women and children into slavery, and we're going to sow the fields with salt. And they asked him why, and he said, because sometimes an example must be made. In this case, make an example of these dirtbags.
Amen. Yeah.
I want names. If I don't have names, it didn't happen.
Names and faces. I want perp walks.
All right. Breaking news. President Trump and Secretary Scott Bessent plan to freeze the IRS for 90 days to find fraud, in addition to firing 45,000 IRS agents. This is a genius idea. S2, what are your thoughts on the IRS?
You want to sow chaos? Here you go. You're fucking with their money now.
I think we started that on day one with USAID, fucking with their money.
That's too
yeah,
funny.
but this fucks with one of their major appendages.
Mm-hmm.
this
fucks with one of the major sources of the money that are left.
Well, this fucks with the sources of this fucks with the conduit through which they receive the money to be able to allocate to all of these other programs. So he's basically starving the system, which is, yeah, it's freaking beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, so that's the end of chapter 2. We're getting ready to pivot into chapter 3. Zany headlines, memes, funny stuff, interesting stuff, incredibly stupid stuff, and everything in between. So we're going to jump right in with this one first. I Am Ken asks, how many Democrats were just like this one? 1 minute, 17 seconds.
I cannot tell you how refreshing it was to wake up this morning and hear from other Democrats and see on my post other Democrats who are just as furious and ready to friggin' jump ship as I am. I'm not buying into what they're selling, because after what we saw yesterday, I'm actually glad that they pulled that yesterday, because people like me who have been disillusioned by the Democratic Party for a long time got to see an evilness there, got to see a diabolical side of the Democratic Party who's basically saying, we want you to fail. We don't care if you fail. It's like the scene in The Wizard of Oz when they finally go back to see the great Oz and they pull the curtain back, and it's just a little old man just standing there like that doesn't have a fucking clue. I'm not going to be afraid to voice my opinion anymore. I'm done. I am done I am done, and you're not going to bully me off my own page by thinking logical thoughts. I'm not going to be gaslit by my own party. Not one day more. Not one day more.
So, any thoughts on how many people are actually seeing the light like her?
There's a lot.
Probably going to say at least, I'm going to be real conservative, probably 20% of the people that voted that were Democrat.
That would be a big number, wouldn't it? When you think about it in the grand scheme of things. But it would also explain some of the poll numbers, which we know the polls are all bullshit anyway. But when you have 72% of Americans who watched the speech approve of Trump's statements and his record so far, it probably means it's 82%, 85%. Big numbers for sure. All right.
Honestly, I hope Republicans jump off of that platform too. Both of them. Let them both fail.
There you go. All right. Trump's back and America is roaring. 81% cheer deporting criminals. 76% love border security. 73% aligned with Trump's congressional speech. Is this the comeback that we've waited for? 28 seconds.
The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
About to go down, going all out. This is right now, yeah. Together we rise. It's about time. Unleash the power.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, Democrats.
Yeah, well-made point there, Jack.
King Bob! Sorry.
So we're into chapter 3, crazy zany stuff. If you laughed at this video, 24 seconds long, you're going to hell.
Okay.
We can't see it.
Oh,
we can't see it, man.
I heard you. Just give me a second here. Frank, God damn it. We need a fucking producer. You know how hard it is to fucking host an episode and produce it? All right, 24 seconds.
Is that Nancy Pelosi?
I wish. Talk about wrong place, wrong time. All
Don't
right.
try to be first into the dime store in the morning.
Damn.
So when we routinely say that we don't have serious politics in our country, we have political theater. This is just another example of this. I mean, this is bullshit, man. These are supposed to be our leaders of our country behaving like this.
Oh no! It's a cultural divide. I'm gonna get it on the floor. You really about to do it? 40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music. You really about to do it? Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence. They get on it like that. Hey, I'm tripping, I'm sliding, I'm riding through the back like fuck. Must that on a beat, bro, deep boat in rap. He a freak though, man down, call like Ember Lambs. Tell him breathe, let them boys to the cross, they walk around like thieves. What's up with these?
Dude, she's like holding her crotch like Mike does. Big Mike, that is. And has the same pantsuit.
Say, why you gotta call me out like that, man?
Not you.
The other Mike.
And I do not have that pantsuit.
Yes, you do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why are you so quick to defend yourself?
I've seen it. He's not telling you the truth.
All right, you got me. Y'all got me.
All right. So here's the next public service announcement. If you post that you stand with Ukraine, you will now be drafted automatically. 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Probably going to play the whole thing.
Man, I really stand with Ukraine. I wonder if people know just how much I stand with Ukraine.
You should post it.
Hey, Greg, psst, over here. Greg, you see me?
Yeah, Bill?
Hey, Greg. I really you know, oh no, this is weird. Was I really going to just tell him that I stand with Ukraine? And now I'm just thinking to myself while staring at him wordlessly. Oh, this is super weird. Just say something. Sports.
Yay,
Bill.
sports ball.
Sports.
I really like that guy in the
maybe I
latex
could-
suit.
I did it. I really did it. Now people know I'm a good person.
You clicked on it, stupid.
Oh, no. How is this possible? I can't be drafted. I'm 40 years old. I have kids. I was recently hit by a bus. I just wanted to show that I was a good person, not actually be a good person.
No draft age.
Based on a new federal order, when you post in support of a foreign war, you will automatically be drafted to fight in that war. Thank you for volunteering, patriots.
What have I done?
You basically signed up for this.
Sorry, dude, but the age thing doesn't get it anymore. Ukraine's range of drafting is 14 to 60.
Yeah, exactly. I stumbled across this father and son picture today. John Rocker
There it
was
is.
kind enough to post it. Yep.
There it is. Now
All
he
right,
knows.
next-
Now we know he comes from Australia.
All right. Jojo from Jers. If you feel like a woman, you're a woman. Imagine applying this logic to anything else in life. Absolute clownery. I don't know if we can make it through the whole thing. We'll try.
I feel like a billionaire.
Ask you a question, a simple question.
What are you talking
Give me a
about?
simple answer, Jojo. What is a woman, Jojo?
Yes. Well, a woman is whatever. If you feel like you're a woman, then you're a woman. I know I'm a woman. I identify as a woman.
So if I feel
know
like
what
a
that
woman
means
right
to
now,
me.
I'm a woman?
I'm not threatened.
Hang on.
If you feel like you're a woman,
Hang
it's
on.
your identity.
If I-
sure.
so hang on,
If
just to be clear,
I'm sorry. What's a
heard you.
man? Piers, what's your
Just to
definition
be
of a
clear,
man?
just
I'm
to
a
be
woman.
clear,
What's your
just to be
definition
clear,
of a man?
So just to be clear, if I feel
One that
like
has a dick.
I'm a woman, is that your position?
And
See the look on her face when I said that?
you're a woman, Piers, and you want to walk around identifying as a woman, it is not my prerogative to tell you that you
Am I a
cannot.
woman?
I identify as a woman. What is
Am
a
I a
man,
woman?
Piers? What is a man?
Oh, a man
Is
is an
Donald Trump a
adult
man?
human.
Can I,
That's it.
Pierce, can I jump
Male.
into that question?
Adult,
An adult human.
male.
An adult human male.
Oh,
adult
please.
male is a
An
man.
adult
yes.
human male.
Can I
Yes.
finally
And
get
a
to
woman
that?
like
is an
55
adult
pounds of
human
cake makeup, that's not right.
female.
Right,
Adult
can I finally
human
get to say
female.
You ask me what a woman is.
Adult
I am a woman.
human
I identify
male.
as a woman.
Poor guy in the
Okay, but just to
middle.
be clear,
It goes on and on.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay.
I work all night and I sleep all day
Mentally
Without
fucking
limits,
ill.
clothing.
and hang around in bars.
Did y'all catch Justin Trudeau crying at his press conference?
No.
Yeah, Trump yelled at him.
Oh, wee lamb.
Zoom in for the close up. Con, give us a close up. The guy who had tears running down his face because he's defending
Is he going to do the
country
Chief
against
Joseph
us.
tear in the eye thing?
Yeah. Cry me a river. All right.
Oh God, I saw
Mike.
this today.
Mike, you are a habitual racist.
Whatever. I ain't stopping drinking coffee.
Drinking
You
coffee.
look funny at my coffee. We're going to war.
Drinking coffee perpetuates white supremacy.
Whatever. Whatever.
I was waiting for you to say whatever. I'm from Alabama.
I must be a real racist because I have a stockpile of it.
I don't.
Pair of you.
I lost all of my coffee in a mysterious boating accident.
Along with the guns.
Where you drank
Horrible.
Oh no, I got plenty of guns.
This person says Riley Gaines is a sore loser for not wanting men in women's sport. Definitely not playing the full 2 minutes.
Riley Gaines has been such a successful transphobe that her name is being attached to bills
across the country trying to ban trans athletes and impede on trans rights. And the thing that I can't get past, besides the transphobia and the hatred and the bigotry and just the hatefulness of all of it, right, is that I can't imagine being such a sore loser that having to share a 5th place trophy with a trans woman sent me into a years-long spiral to this degree. Riley Gaines has admitted that the thing that really bothered her was that when she tied for 5th place with Leah Thomas, 5th place, the thing that really upset her was that they gave Leah the trophy and she got to stand on the podium with the trophy. And Riley had to hold the 6th place trophy and they were going to mail her trophy in the mail. And she just didn't think that was fair.
Go eat a sandwich.
Oh my God. These people are so mentally ill.
She needs to put on a little bit of weight there too. Anorexia is getting to her.
All right.
Not eating makes these people crazy.
You gotta love Senator Kennedy. Golly, he's freaking funny.
This guy, man.
I think Elon Musk is a rock star. The tofu crowd is mad, but when you trim fat, pigs squeal. That's just the way the world works. That's the law of nature. I think
when you trim the fat, the pigs squeal. All right. Comments on this. The Krumloff was a German invention during World War II that allowed weapons to fire around a curve, keeping the soldiers safe behind cover. Optics allowed the operator to sight the weapon. The Krumloff was surprisingly accurate, allowing target groupings at 100 yards.
The Krumloff device.
And then the Israelis made it better. They
just put the gun around the corner.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. And
kind of like how the British made the condom better. It was originally invented by the Arabs sometime around the 7th century using a section of goat intestine.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 18th century, the British improved on it by taking that section of goat intestine out of the goat.
I thought it was the Scottish that did that. And it was a sheep.
Hey,
Haggis.
Don't you go talking bad about my culture.
All right. So more evidence of not having serious politicians and
this
political
is just cringy. Everybody get ready for the cringe moment.
Yeah. Look at that Karen.
Choose your fighter.
Yeah, you're gonna die.
There's a better one out there that shows Donald Trump and everybody in the top and these clowns in the bottom, and Donald Trump and them aren't acting. It's just them being themselves.
Wait a minute. Youngest woman and Latina to be you can't call her Latina. I thought she had to be Latinx.
Puerto Rican. She's Puerto Rican.
Yeah, but I thought their requirement was that they had to be Latinx, or however you pronounce it.
The question that's been disturbing me in my mind about that is, why does her bedroom look like the honeymoon suite out of the Hotel 6 in Podunk somewhere?
Well, it's for her, she's doubling up on it for her OnlyFans.
Got it. Okay. She's got to have a career after politics.
She got to have a career while she's in politics.
That makes total sense. Total sense. All right, next one up. As Trump said, let them speak because they will destroy themselves. She told the truth here. Boom, another Freudian slip.
Don't care about this country, and that is unacceptable if you claim to be the president of the United States. So we are here. We are not going anywhere. We are going to continue to fight back, and we are going to continue to speak lies to his truth. We're going to continue to speak lies to his truth. We're going to continue to speak lies to his truth, to his stealing, and to his cheating. Thank you.
you see the look on a couple of them's faces? Like, did she just really say that?
Ooh, yeah, you fumbled that ball at the 5-yard line, man.
All right. She totally nailed her impression of the Democrats, and some woman named Kamala. Doesn't ring a bell.
Today is today. And yesterday was today, yesterday. Tomorrow will be today, tomorrow. Today is today.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. So check out the culture of hate here with the Democrats. There needs to be unrest in the streets. Protesters should not let up. If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out, create a crowd, and you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome. I just don't know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be. And, there's Barry's idea of peaceful protests. All right. Every public school classroom in America should have a camera where parents can watch and listen during teacher instruction. Who agrees? I agree with that.
Good with that.
Yeah.
Until this happens, nothing will change.
I think that was one of mine. Yeah.
There's Dollar Store Obama, by the way. He's got the actual uniform on this time.
Yeah, I called him out. I called him out today too.
He's dumber than a freaking box of hammers. Before DJ became a Secret Service agent, he was a Texas State Trooper.
That kid better figure out which branch he wants to be in.
No kidding.
I mean, he's got a lot of offers, so he's got a great future ahead of him.
Of course, yeah. Zelensky, remember when I'd come to the U.S. and remind the president of all the dirt I had on his son and leave with a bundle of money? I miss those days. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it works that way.
Somebody overplayed his hand and has queered his deal.
Yeah. House Oversight Project finds the Biden presidency was almost entirely run by auto pen signature. We gathered every document we could find with Biden's signature over the course of his presidency, says Oversight PR. All used the same auto pen signature, except for the announcement the former president was dropping out of the race last year. Here is the auto pen signature. This is criminal. The Biden presidency didn't have a real president. People should go to jail for this.
Why didn't they just use his Adobe signature? It would have been easier.
Right?
Yeah.
You're allowed to use that in any other government operation.
Yeah. Cut and paste. Works well.
Dishonest media mocks Trump's transgender mice comment. Donald Trump makes bizarre remark about transgender mice in Congress speech. Turns out the Biden admin did spend over $8 million researching transgender mice. So let's go up to the top here and see. $455,000 a mouse model to test the effects of gender-affirming hormone therapy on HIV vaccine-induced immune responses. $2.5 million reproductive consequences of steroid human blah blah blah. There we go. $299,940 gender-affirming testosterone therapy on breast cancer risk and treatment outcomes
for female mice.
$1.2 million androgen effects on the reproductive neuroendocrine axis, and $3.1 million gonadal hormones as mediators of sex and gender influence in asthma.
He should have used, instead of the mouse example, he should have used what they did to cats and dogs. That was fucking horrific.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know what they did to cats.
Yeah, the whole thing was brutal. I thought this one was kind of funny. I hope President Trump allows DJ to lock you stupid niggers that bullied him up.
Man.
The doctor said this will stop me from chewing my nuts. And the death.
Will it now? Really?
The death knell rings for the Department of Education.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, bye.
Should read IRS.
Yeah. Breaking. There's an increasing movement of people calling for Adam Schiff to be charged and arrested over the Russian collusion hoax. I agree. This is way overdue.
That guy is just like the epitome of crazy eyes, man.
We found the real
look, it's
Pam
the
Bondi
orchestrator
today.
of Epstein.
Yeah, we found the real Pam Bondi today.
Oh.
Pelosi to sue McDonald's for trademark infringement.
That was not one of mine, but that is genius.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying meme of the night right there.
Epstein did not kill himself. I'd like to solve. The hell you will.
Crack.
Oh, you good Lord, Chris, you had to put one of these in there.
Oh, come on. I still got to eat dinner, and now I'm not hungry.
Not to mention you're affecting the sex lives of millions of men around the country.
Oh, God.
That's like a
Scroll
fucking
past
boner
it,
killer. That's a
please.
boner
Keep
killer right
going.
there.
Come on.
You need me to zoom in on this for you? Is that better?
Hey.
Look away, child.
If you have an erection that lasts more than 4 hours, look at this picture.
Trump blasts Rep. Al Green as an embarrassment to Democrats. Said he should be forced to take an IQ test. There he is, right there.
Ouch.
All right. Trump assassination files, JFK files, Epstein files, Americans, Pam Bondi. Funny, not funny. All right. Choosing your wife is the most important decision you could make. Oh my God.
I can't cast no stones.
Yeah. Ow, look at friggin' Brittany. Oh my God. All right.
We each get 3 tries. Pardon me.
We get our members to hold up handheld signs. It's the perfect plan. Nothing could go wrong. Retards, Trump 2024 or 2028. And the reason Muslim men prefer goats. And I stand with Ukraine. Click here to donate $100,000 to show your support for the war effort. Click here to volunteer to fight for Ukraine against Russia. Click here to volunteer your son or daughter for the Ukraine military. Click here to admit you are just virtue signaling. Click here to admit that standing with Ukraine means you support the slaughter of thousands of men and women and children because you hate President Trump and don't have a plan to end the war.
That last one's going to get hit a lot.
Julius Malema, member of the National Assembly of South Africa, we will expropriate land without compensation, whether they, meaning white people, like it or not. If they object, they can seek refuge in America.
And that is exactly the same path that they did in Rhodesia.
You want to know what's really interesting about that? That person there, the party that they represent, isn't even a recognized party in Africa.
No shit. That's ironic, isn't it? All right. I picked a useless college major that'll never let me pay off my student loans. So, like, now I'm totally socialist because it's rich people's fault that I'm poor.
Oh, look, it's my mother.
Yeah. Ukraine war for dummies. Trump end the war. Too many people are suffering and no one wants World War III. Putin. Okay. Zelensky, no. Give me more money and guns. Globalist. Trump is pro-Putin. Putin, pardon me. We the people. Fuck off. End the war. No more money and weapons. Pretty much good start. This next one is fucking brilliant.
That is just such an insult to Frankenstein. I'm sorry.
That's just fucking classic. And these are the people claim they stand with Ukraine.
I skipped ahead. Sorry.
I don't think she stands at all. But anyway. Drinking coffee perpetuates white supremacy. We know that.
Look. Why are you trying to get between me and coffee? This is the second one. This is up for.
Is
this an intervention? Am I being detained?
It's a repeat. Get over it. All right. So homework related to the first topic of the night. So what can our audience do in light of the main topic we discussed, which was Psyops, astroturfing? Review the resources at chasehughes.com, ChaseHughes.com. You can also go to Patreon, grab our sit rep. Daily sit rep has all these links. Study some of his work that's free. Take one of his free online courses. Use his infographic and scorecard. Mike will go to you first. Advice for people to improve their abilities to spot psyops.
Well, for one, I mean, a lot of the folks that we're already talking to have already gotten off of the mainstream media tit and have started actually thinking for themselves. Weird, I know, strange. How dare you? The party will come after you for this.
How dare you?
Right. Yeah, that's the best that I can think of is yeah, think for yourself. It's our job to bring you information, not our job to judge it. Judge it for yourself.
All right. S2, advice to the audience. Psyops.
In the words of some anarchist that I can't remember the name of, question everything. I have a similar scorecard to what NCI has there that I have posted out on my liberty.net channel, which will be moving to groups but renamed shortly. So I need to move everything off of there.
2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Jeff and I are going to make the switch. And anybody who shows up on libertyclub.net after 2 p.m. tomorrow will see no groups. They'll just see channels, and everything's going to be a slightly different chunk of code that we're using that has more features.
You guys could at least migrate the stuff over there that I post. That's a lot of shit over there. Anyway, yeah, question everything and trust your gut. They have basically trained people in this world to not trust their gut anymore. And the way I always look at things, if it smells like shit, tastes like shit, and looks like shit, it's probably shit.
Yep. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. All right. Last reminder, patreon.com/survival dispatch, link below. $9.99 a month. You get our daily situation report, which is what we conduct each episode with. Each night has links to everything that we've covered. So you can watch the videos in full length. You can study whatever articles we've linked to. You get an invite to our Signal chat. If you do decide to do that, you have to install Signal on your phone, the app. You cannot hide your phone number. Then you have to send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com with your phone number. We will send you an invite. Then you can hide your phone number if you want, but you have to have the app running to get an invite, because we have to send an invite somebody who has a valid Signal account application on their phone. There's other value adds to the membership, but just go to patreon.com/survivaldispatch. All the details are there. All right. Conflicted question. Mike, you got this?
Mm-hmm.
Let her rip.
Okay, incident at a gas station. So, as always, I'm going to go ahead and read this, and we want everybody out there in the audience to put your answers in the comments section. Put them in there. Write them in. We want to hear from you guys, all right? And at this point, if you haven't mashed that like button, you're probably a communist. So, deal with it. Okay. It is a humid afternoon on March 8th, 2025. At a busy gas station off a highway, a distracted driver, texting, rear ends a pickup truck at the pump, rupturing its fuel tank. Gasoline spills across the lot, and within seconds, a dropped cigarette from a nearby customer ignites it. Flames spread fast, engulfing 2 pumps in a car. People scream and scatter as the station's awning catches fire. The cashier hits the emergency shutoff, but a panicking bystander with a pistol draws it, thinking it's an attack, escalating the chaos. Sirens wail in the distance, but the fire is growing, and you're stuck deciding whether to run or help. Fire, yeah. Sorry.
Fire.
Prepper question. So, what is the one prepper tool or skill you'd use to either escape this safely or assist without getting burned? What is your move? Let's hear it from you in the comments section. Ready, go.
I'm going to just say that distance equals safety. So if there's somebody close that needs assistance, I would help them first. But if there's nobody in the immediate vicinity that needs help, I'm getting out of Dodge, because distance equals safety. The one tool, if I had to use a tool for this, would be a fire blanket. So if somebody was on fire, they got gas on them and they combusted as well, I'd want to have a fire blanket with me, and I would put a fire blanket on them to squelch the flames. S2, and then Mike, you can close it out.
Well, what I would do is I would activate my bipedal capabilities in a very rapid fashion.
Distance equals safety. All right, we'll go to the bomb guy.
Yeah, I've been on fire before. I am out of there. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. Yeah, toodaloo. Yeah, I got to get me and I got to get my family out of there. We've got to be alive in order to be able to help somebody. Yeah.
I too can say from firsthand experience that being on fire with gasoline, it is not a day at the park.
It is not pleasant. It is not pleasant at all.
100%, 100%. All right, we will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. We've got a cool kind of Western dilly video to close up tonight with the new lawman in town. That would be Donald Trump. Till tomorrow night, please like, share, comment, subscribe.
God bless America.
Hoorah.
In the dusty streets of Washington, D.C., the new posse rides in, led by the chief lawman Donald Trump with his steely resolve and determination. He is hell-bent on returning our nation back to her former glory. Beside him, J.D. Vance, the sharp-eyed, quick-witted right-hand hombre, is there to help him make America great again. Elon Musk, the tech-savvy inventor and steadfast champion of free speech, has plans to cut out the political pork that plagued our land. RFK Jr., the truth seeker, and Tulsi Gabbard, the fearless warrior, are determined to expose the lies the deep state has sold us for half a century. Then there's Russ Vought, the iron-willed regulator who will make sure President Trump's Agenda 47 is carried out and has the funds it needs to be successful. Pete Hegseth, the battle-hardened patriot, fights to defend the values that built this country. Together they aim to cleanse the capital of its corrupt varmints, to uproot the deep state, and to restore justice to a land long overrun by shadowy outlaws.
No, make no mistake. It's not revenge he's after. It's reckoning.